One thing I did want to mention that I heard the other day that I think is really important to getting the most out of ChatGPT. It said the people that really like there's two groups of people. One who performs better using AI and one performs worse using AI. And what they found was how they viewed AI. And while we said AI is a tool, they said that's actually the wrong way to envision AI. That really we should be envisioning AI as a teammate. And I really felt that that was just a different perspective. And because what they were really getting to is, well, what would you do with a teammate if they didn't turn out good work? Normally if it's a tool, we say, stupid AI, can't get anything right. I can't believe this. This is no good, that kind of thing. But if we had a teammate in front of us, hopefully we wouldn't be doing that. We'd be like, okay, what did they need to know? Why did it go wrong? How could we coach them? How could we do this in a better way to get better results? What would that look like? And I think that's a really important shift in perspective that will help most people if you understood that and understand that this is not a sprint. This is a long-term game where you're needing to understand how to utilize this because it's not going away. And the same thing is just like with personal development or developing anybody in your staff, it should be evolving, right? The things that you need to teach them today are not the things that you're going to need to teach them, 6 months or a year from now. Hopefully they're learning and it's changing. And I see that is as a big mindset shift change.
Yeah, absolutely. And your mention of kind of a coworker. That was my first exposure to it in the application of development work. I'm writing the code, I'm doing the work there, but I have it open on the side, and it's essentially the senior developer that I'm asking some questions and testing some ideas I have against. And sometimes it would spit out some code for me, but interacting with it like it's a partner that knows a couple more things than you might know, but doesn't know what you are trying to accomplish as well. So working with it and communicating back and forth, like somebody that's sitting next to you at the desk is definitely, depending on the application, a very good way to think about it and to approach it.
So one thing I wanted to talk about, we talked about how to get the most out of ChatGPT, but there are some specific prompting ways to prompt ChatGPT. We kind of talked about it, prompting it to be an expert, giving it some examples. But what is chain of thought? Maybe you could talk about this and how important is this in utilizing it to get good results, especially for longer answers?
Yeah, so I think my first exposure to this was a time that I was playing around with DeepSeek, and that is an AI model actually developed out of China, but one that has honestly been giving OpenAI a bit of a run for its money, at least initially. And when using its reasoning model, I was putting in some queries. I don't even remember what I was doing. And as part of its output, it doesn't just jump to the result. It outputs a section where it refers to it. This is what I'm thinking. So it's like, okay, well, Steve, asked me to do this, but I don't really know what he meant about this one thing. Is it blue or is it red? So I need to think about that a little bit and figure out the details for that. If I don't have the information, I need to make an assumption there. And it was just this ongoing reasoning that, looked at each step of what I was asking for to figure out what it needs to know before it can get to the next step. So that essentially is, take it away from that and it doing it and apply it yourself. That is essentially what chain of thought prompting is. It's essentially guiding the AI to think step by step before just jumping to the final answer. So instead of me just asking, what is the best CRM for a retail company? Maybe I'm going to say, okay, walk me through the factors that a small retail business should consider in choosing a CRM. And then maybe, talk about your, specific niche or your industry and some of your specific needs. How you do your marketing, and get feedback from it on those right ways to do things and the things to consider. And then based on all of that, you can tell it to, provide me, say, 5 top recommendations based on those factors that you helped me identify. So it's a method for improving the depth and the logic and allowing it to give you more specific, accurate answers that are going to help you in your specific situation. So, and one of the things that I also always try to recommend people to do, don't be afraid to push back and to ask questions and to challenge what it gives you. I mean, I do that regularly. It's like, well, hey, I don't think you thought about this, or maybe you didn't know this. And some of its output maybe had me think about that when I didn't before. So, never just settle for the first result, work to refine it. It's going to produce a better result. But breaking down the way you're thinking about what do I need to know to make the next decision, to make the next decision, to make the next decision, and then based on all that information, I'm going to be much better off at getting to my final result that I'm after.
I think a lot of people aren't aware of this, but we see computers as they remember everything. Their memory's kind of perfect, but also with AI and the way that it works, sometimes it can get lost, especially if you have it a long prompt or a long, you're looking for a long output. So you might say is, okay, I'm looking to do this report on this particular thing. Make me an outline. Okay. And then I'd like you to write this, going letter by letter in the outline, and just start writing it piece by piece so that it stays on track and in the end produces a greater, a better result. And so that's as part of the chain of thought, moving through that direction, I think is important as well. But I think there's this recursive type of prompting that I think is really important as well. And that is after you get the result, like you said, push back on it. You can actually put it back into the LLM to then say is, okay, here's the work that you put out. Maybe you put it into a different chat, ask it to see your work from a different perspective. Now I want you to, I wanted you to write this report. Now I want you to view and edit this report as an editor or as a client.